Do I believe in quantum leaps in business? Absolutely, 100%. And I've been there and it's been amazing. And I also believe in becoming the type of person who can hold what you're asking for first, because you'll ruin it if you do.
If you're finding value in what you're watching, consider hitting the subscribe button and turning on the bell notification. Oh, and don't forget to drop a comment. I love hearing your thoughts and ideas. By the way, we have got a ton of other videos waiting for you. And if you are ready to level up your mindset, come hang out with us in our private Facebook group called Mindset for Business Success. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Super Entrepreneurs Podcast. I'm your host, Shahid Durrani. Today, we have with us Samantha Skelly. She's the founder of Pause Breathwork and on a mission to help people break through emotional blocks and reconnect with their bodies. So, welcome, Samantha, to our show. How are you,
Thank you
Samantha?
so much for having me. I'm great. I feel very grateful and happy to be here with you today. So thank you so much for having me on.
My pleasure. Same here. You built a business around breath work, but a lot of entrepreneurs, they may think that breath work might be a low priority in their life. They got to hustle. How can they integrate breath work in those high pressure environments?
After being an entrepreneur for 15 years and after being surrounded with entrepreneurs for that long, I really believe that a lot of entrepreneurship was built from trauma. A lot of entrepreneurship is this energy of we got to go, we got to prove ourselves, we got to build, we got to do. It's a lot of that energy. And that can burn entrepreneurs out so much. They talk often about how, like, the stats on how the failure rate of businesses. And I've always believed that it's not necessarily a lack of talent or strategy. It's a lack of psychology of the owner, of not being able to really manage our state, really manage our emotionality, and really move through those blocks that we have that are trying to get us to always move and grow and perform and more revenue, like it's nonstop, right? And so breathwork, for entrepreneurs specifically, like, obviously breathwork is a wellness practice. It can be very spiritually healing, very emotionally healing, and very physically healing. But I love using breathwork with entrepreneurs to help them get reconnected to their deeper reason and their deeper why, and release the constant chronic subliminal anxiety that is existing in their nervous system constantly, and come to a place where we feel clear and confident and competent, and we're not using fear as a fuel source to get you done. Yeah. So like that's like I love teaching breathwork to entrepreneurs because it allows us to release the fear that exists within our systems and tap into our joy, tap into our confidence, tap into our competence, so that we can grow these dreams and grow these businesses from a different place. And ultimately that feels so much better. My acronym for business is life, lucrative, impactful, fun, and easy. Like, how can we just let it be lucrative, impactful, fun, and easy?
Just
And
flow.
like the first couple businesses I owned, I was not that. It was hustle, force, go, burn myself out, work 12-hour days, operate from fear, operate from lack. And it's just not a good time.
No. And how were you health wise as well? Did you notice, because it's very similar for me as well, I can resonate, but with you, did you notice a difference in your health when it was go before and how it is now?
Absolutely. Yeah. My mental health, my physical health, right? So it's like my body was like inflamed. Everything's connected, right? So our emotionality is deeply connected to our physicality. And so when we pay attention to giving our emotions and giving our nervous system calmness and ease, then our body begins to relax. Our body's not in fight or flight anymore. But we have the sympathetic nervous system, which is our rest and digest, and then we have our parasympathetic nervous system, which is our fight or flight. Or did I say that right? We have our sympathetic, which is our fight or flight. We have our parasympathetic, which is our rest and digest. And most entrepreneurs are constantly in the sympathetic nervous system. Just like, entrepreneurship is hard. Let's be real. I love that you have this show and you're offering so much value to entrepreneurs, because
Thank you.
It's hard, dude. Like like I've been an entrepreneur for 15 years now, and there's days where I'm just like, that's it. I'm gonna go apply at State Farm Insurance. Screw, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's not that I would ever
Yeah.
do that, and nothing against
No.
that. It's just not for me. But it's a challenging thing every single day to be the sole person to believe in your dreams and to get over your own psychology around your limited beliefs. That's a
Mm.
hard thing to do every single
So,
day.
yeah, I say life is what you make it. And I feel that the hardness is also a mental state
Yeah.
because when you start living from inside out and you have this connection to something that's greater than any other concept that you come across in your physical on your in your third dimensional world, it completely shifts how you see things on the outside, your perception. So even when the difficult things could be going crazy all around, but you still have that level of calmness, how you look at it. You mentioned that flow state.
Mm.
The more you work on your inner world through breath work, meditation, all that, the more that you work on that, the more calmer it becomes, and the more you can deal with what they call hard becomes just is. It is what it is. When you start flowing with it, it just makes a huge difference to the quality of your life.
Yeah, and that's the hard that I'm talking about. The hard that I'm
Yeah.
talking about is overcoming the self. One of my friends, Chris
Yeah.
Whitfield, says, I work hard to make my life easy. Business is
Yeah.
business. It's numbers, it's
Yeah.
people, it's this and that. Like the
Yeah.
actual tangible action. That part is easy. But if we don't
Yeah.
have the psychology and the
Yeah.
self-respect inside do
Yes.
that hard work, it's gonna feel really hard.
Yes.
Like you're gonna get an
Yeah.
email from someone and you're gonna be like, my whole business is done. Exactly right. And
End
I
of the
love that you
world.
yeah, I love that
Yeah.
you double clicked
Yeah.
into that because the hard part of it
Yeah.
is overcoming the self.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. It takes a commitment, dedication. But boy, the benefits are priceless. It's so easy to give up on that journey. And then a lot of people, what they do is they try to do it on their own through YouTube videos, but they find it more and more frustrating. And that's
Yeah.
why it's super important for people like yourself to be doing what you do because you provide that hand holding and that guidance. And I love breath work. It's
Mhm.
definitely one of those aspects that gave me wings because I think
Yeah.
that it opens up something, especially when you're holding your breath for longer periods and creating that motion. There's like this unseen gate that kind of opens up to some kind of love or appreciation, compassion, connectedness that you may not experience just with meditation, if that makes sense. I think when you incorporate the breath work with that type of mindfulness, it's like taking steroids. You know what I mean? Am I
Mm.
correct, or is this?
Yeah, 100%. I'll explain it from a
Yeah,
scientific
please.
perspective, and then I'll
Yeah,
explain it from like a spiritual
please.
perspective. So,
Mm.
so when we're doing conscious continual breath work, which for those of you who this is their first time learning about it, it's basically a way we breathe 23,000 times a day, and the majority of those are not controlled breaths or
Yeah,
conscious breaths. And so breath work is essentially bringing attention, bringing mindfulness to the breaths that we take, right? So the type of breath work that you're talking about is more of an activating breath work, and it would probably sound a little something like this.
yeah,
So it's 2 breaths in, like 1 breath into the belly,
all the way out. Yeah,
1 breath all the way up, and then letting that exhale be longer than the 2 inhales. And what that
longer.
does is it
Yeah,
stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system, right? Which is our rest and digest. What that's also doing as we're breathing in that way is it's stimulating the amygdala. Now, when we stimulate the amygdala is the part of our brain that is responsible for our survival strategies. So when our amygdala is stimulated, it actually mitigates it stops the response of our survival strategies. Now, our survival strategies are the part of us that's don't feel, don't do this, stop doing this. Like it's all they're always trying to protect us constantly. It's like that voice inside of our brain that's always
mm,
trying to keep us safe. And there's intelligence to that part, right? That's the same part that says don't jump in front of that train or
yeah.
whatever. So there is
Has its
intelligence.
place.
Yeah, it has its place. The problem is we blanket the survival strategies on everything that we do. So no matter what it is, our
Hmm.
brain's like, you're going to die. Don't do that. And so we live
Yeah,
small. So
Mm.
that feeling you're talking about is when our survival strategies are in the background. They're not driving the car, they're in the back seat. And then what that allows us to do is it allows us to tap into our intuition. Our intuition
Mhm.
is connected to source. And so for those of you who, whatever your faith is, whether you say God,
Mhm.
universe, life force, whatever, it's the same thing in my opinion. What we're our bodies are connected to everything. We are a part of
Mhm.
everything. Like we are
Mhm.
literally made of stardust. And so when that part of our brain is not so intense, we open up and we get to actually feel connected to everything that we are, which is like that feeling that you were talking about of this
The
bliss.
oneness.
Yeah, the
Mhm.
oneness, the bliss,
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
excitement, the like,
Mhm.
it's this feeling of being completely calm and energized simultaneously and realizing that we are a part of something so much greater. And so
Yeah.
that is that's like the why, one of the whys from a scientific and spiritual reason.
Yeah. And there's something to do with the main nerve as well, the vagus.
Yeah, so there's we have something called the vagus nerve, which is the
Yeah.
nerve that controls our automatic nervous system. And
Mhm.
when that nerve is stimulated, it's connected to spirit essentially. It's like a really powerful nerve. And the beautiful thing about breath work is it increases our vagal tone. So breath work, the more we do breath work, the stronger that vagus nerve gets. When that vagus nerve is stronger, it allows us to really have a different perspective of life. Like we're really changing our neural networks when we do breath work,
Mhm.
and we're getting out of that network that says you're unsafe and everything, like you can't do it, and we're tapping
Mhm.
into this infinite network, this infinite wholeness that we are all familiar with.
Yeah. Like I remember at times when I'm doing this, when I'm holding my breath, for example, and I surrender to source, to divine, and I just let go and go in that state. And then I snap out of it. And I honestly, I don't even know how long I wasn't breathing, if that makes sense. If there's something that you want to speak about that part, that would be great.
Yes, a lot of people say, I don't like breath work because it's so much work. It's in the name, breath work. The interesting
Mm.
thing is the work is really only in the first 3 to 5 minutes. So if we
Hmm.
can really work the breath for the first 3 to 5 minutes, in those first 3 to 5 minutes, the mind is going to be like, what are you doing? You're hyperventilating. This is crazy. You're going to pass out. You're not going to. And it is hyperventilating.
No.
The difference is breath work is intentional hyperventilation. And the hyperventilation that we're all used to is external unintentional hyperventilation where something in our reality freaks us out and
Mhm.
we hyperventilate because of
Mhm.
that. But this is hyperventilation, more
On
ventilation, right? It's the same
purpose.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's just
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
purpose. So
Yeah.
when we're doing that, the mind is going to, as the survival strategies are quieting down, the mind's gonna just like be a little bit busy of like, I don't like this. This sucks. I don't like this is uncomfortable. The more you do breath work, the less it that voice comes up. But then after the 3 to 5 minutes, it's almost as if the body's breathing itself. And it's almost as if there is this feeling of the body taking over. And when the body
Mm.
takes over, we're the intelligence of our system, because our bodies are just so intelligent. Is for every point of suffering in our body, we have the antidote. We are the drug. We really are the drug. And
Mhm. Yeah.
as we pass through that, the body is just doing the work for us, and it's healing our trauma, and it's releasing our stress, and it's improving our overall well-being. I was in a breathwork class just yesterday actually with a man, and it was this, we did a little circuit. It was a 45-minute breathwork session. We did a cold plunge and sauna, and it was like a group of 30 of us. And I was having a chat with this man, and he was just like so joyful, so happy, like such a like beautiful energy. And I asked him, I said, what makes you so happy? Where do you source your joy from? I'm always curious with people who are just naturally like that. And I have Parkinson's disease. And since doing breath work, my symptoms have released by 30%. So I'm just so grateful for every single day. And it's just so
Mhm.
interesting how the breath is, again, spiritually healing, right? For people who
Mhm.
are like atheists and there's nothing other than what we see. Okay, do some breath work and that will prove you
Yeah.
wrong. Right? Like so it's
Yeah.
spiritually healing. And I'm not talking like you need to subscribe to any religion. I'm just talking like I believe
No.
God is everything, and God is in that plant. God is in
Every
you. You're
omnipresent. Mhm.
omnipresent. God is freaking omnipresent. I love how you said that. God is omnipresent, right? So God is everywhere in everything. And when I do breath work, I'm like reminded of that so quickly. So it's spiritually healing. Number one, it's emotionally healing. We're all carrying emotion that's not ours. And then it's physically healing.
Yeah. Definitely physically healing, emotional healing. And that brings me to this question about emotional blocks that prevent many entrepreneurs and people that go into business thinking it's going to be wonderful experience and they're going to live on the beach. But then they start realizing like you mentioned, the difficult aspect of it, especially when we're looking on the outside and the up and down, it gets really difficult to manage the emotional side of the business. That's why it's important what we do here, because it gives you that foundational power to withstand and go past the time that we fail or past the time we hit some roadblocks. And we just have this faith, this undeniable, complete, unseen faith that you just keep going. It doesn't matter what's happening outside. To get there, obviously, you need to get some training, but there's entrepreneurs and business people that might be watching and listening to this that have these emotional blocks. Could you share what are some of the common emotional blocks that are overlooked by many? And then how could they immediately use breath work to heal it or work on it after watching this episode? Is there something that you can share?
Yeah, this is a really great question.
Thanks.
Common blocks with entrepreneurs are so much of it is like the self-sabotage, the imposter syndrome, like really not understanding our own potentiality, not understanding how powerful we are. Like human beings are so insanely powerful. And unfortunately, the majority of us are mediocre because we don't realize it. We don't realize that we are these infinite beings. We don't realize that we have so much potential inside of us. So we end up living very small. But those are like the two biggest things that I'll say for entrepreneurs is self-sabotage and imposter syndrome. It's like you get going, you have some success, and then your success that you have on the outside doesn't match what you actually believe to be true about yourself on the inside. And so what happens is your body will ruin your results and will bring you back to square one. We've all been there. Right?
We call it the self-image. Self-image isn't aligned.
Exactly. The self-image is not aligned. There is not congruence between our internal self-image and our external self-image. The body needs congruence. The body has to have alignment.
Has to.
And if the body doesn't have alignment, it's going to find alignment through ruining what you did. Don't know how, I don't know why God created it that way, but that's just what it is. You call it self-image. I call it identity, right? We have to have a radical upgrade in our identity before we even get the results. Yesterday, I was on a meeting with my CFO and my COO, and we were talking about 2025 and our growth and what we want to do. And he just asked me, he goes, okay, what do you want to do next year? How much growth do you want to have? And it was like such an interesting question, right? So let me put my order in for the universe, right? He's like, what do you want? What's like, where do you want to take this sort of thing? And it was such an interesting question for him to give me because I realized in order for me to actually powerfully claim what I want to do next year, I have to be the type of CEO, founder, leader who is an embodiment of that growth. And if I don't do that, if I try and throw shit at a wall, hope it sticks, scale my ads, scale the team, see what happens, and I'm not aligned energetically, emotionally, I'm not all in on that, I'm going to sabotage it. Ask me how I know that. I've done that so many times in the last 15 years. I'm like, we're going to double this year. It's going to be great. Scale the ads, hire a bunch of people. And then it's, oh my God, I've overspent. My profits are squashed. What have I done? This is crazy. So I'm learning now. Do I believe in quantum leaps in business? Absolutely. 100%. And I've been there and it's been amazing. And I also believe in becoming the type of person who can hold what you're asking for first, because you'll ruin it if you don't. So when he asked me that question, I was like, hey, Brandon, I'm like, I got to get back to you because I need to do some like self-reflection and I need to do some image work, identity work to actually get with the version of me that can hold the energy and responsibility of a business that size. Let me get back to you.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's a
Yeah.
really interesting ride. And I really do believe, and I'll stand behind this and I will die on this hill, that entrepreneurship is 80% psychology and energy and is 20%
Yeah.
tactical. But
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah. So true.
we got to get with that. And I see it. I've been in the game obviously for 15 years now. So I've seen it happen where these people come in and guns blazing, so much fire and energy. And like they're just relying on their brute effort and force without doing the inner work. And
Mm.
it's just like, you're going to burn out.
Mhm.
And I see it happen over and
Burn
over
out.
again.
Yeah. And, it's force negates. We feel like force will actually bring the outcome because it has a level of ignorance. And I don't mean it in a bad way, but it's
Yeah,
just not knowing what is residing, what we have within is
exactly.
that everything on the outside is what it is. And you have this powerhouse to create this image, create this person like you mentioned, that holds that energy and then build and create from that place.
Yeah.
It changes everything because now actually even the ideas that you start
Yeah.
getting, they're on
Yes.
a completely different level. And then the people that show up is shocking sometimes, that the kind of
Yeah.
people that you start talking, oh my God,
Mhm.
this is exactly what I need right now.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
where did you come
100%.
from? Yeah, you know what
100%.
I mean? Like, you're not even searching or nothing. Like before, for me, it was always a plan. It was always planning. It was just always planning, and then always trying to figure out something, always thinking, overthinking, thinking. It felt like I was going further away from what I needed, and it caused more frustration. But bringing that
Mhm.
alignment into place, you start seeing things fall into place. I feel like it's a fine line because if you're somewhere in the middle where you're not feeling it energetically, and then you have moments of it when you're feeling that energy, then you might not experience what we were talking about here. I think you need to go more towards that energy and stay there more often for you to actually experience.
Yeah, I think what you're pointing to is what I would
Mm.
call surrender.
Mm.
And I know for myself, one of the things that, just going back to like my childhood, my parents got a divorce when I was 4 years old. So my environment was chaotic at a very young age. And so what that did for me was it made me want to control my environment subconsciously. It was interesting because
Mm.
my parents got a divorce. It was like a nasty divorce, right? My
Yeah.
mom got remarried when I was like 6. And then I had this beautiful childhood with my stepdad and my mom, and they're still married, and it's amazing. But that initial couple years created
Yeah.
instability for me to go like,
Yeah.
oh my God, I need to control my environment because if I
Yeah.
don't, I won't be
Protection
safe.
mechanisms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's an intelligent system. What did I do? I became an entrepreneur. I created my own reality. I
Yeah.
was like, no one's going to ever control my environment. I'm going to do it,
Love it.
which is cool.
Love it.
And I need to really heal that on a deeper level,
Yes.
even more, for
Yes.
me to be in surrender, because I can't be hyper controlled of my environment and also live in surrender, which is where all the magic and miracles and amazingness is
Yes.
at the same time. It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
So,
It's such a paradox though when you think about it, to have that surrender to something that you can't see, can't touch, you can't experience through your senses, and
mhm,
surrendering
mhm,
and then seeing beautiful things start happening. And I'm talking about true surrender.
yeah,
There's no more control anymore. You're just flowing
yeah,
with it. And
yeah,
it's so beautiful that
mm,
unseen faith that you have starts becoming a seen faith in a way. And that's when you realize, wow, this is what everybody was talking about. Right. And
yeah,
and then that's when you realize that this is what you need to share with every other human being automatically.
mhm,
You can't hold it. You're just trying to find
mhm,
every way. And that's what you're doing, going on podcasts and going on tours. And even us meeting, there was a reason, and sharing that voice, bringing it out to more and more people because
mhm,
they have it innate in them. It's just
yeah,
sitting there in this
yeah,
chaos outside,
yeah,
and they just need that word or that sentence or that type of direction, and to
mhm,
realize, wait a minute, this is what I've been looking for. This is what I've been missing. And that's what happened
yeah,
to me. It was just like within a second, all of a sudden I went blank and I was like, whoa. And then from that moment on, everything changed.
yeah. It takes a
Mm.
second, right?
Yeah.
it takes a moment for
Yeah.
awareness to go, boom, that's what you've been looking for. And then literally from that
Yeah.
moment on, our entire reality can change. I always say
Yeah.
it's the small hinge that swings the big door. One shift in awareness can
Mhm.
radically change our entire life. One shift, you
Yeah.
know?
It's great, Samantha. It was wonderful having you on the show. We could talk about this forever. We keep our episodes 20 to 30 minutes.
Love.
You can definitely come back again. The more people start realizing the strength that you gain from this type of work is important. So
Mm.
I'm grateful that you took the time to come on our show. Definitely keep in touch, and I'm
Mhm.
wishing you all the best.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure meeting you and being here today.
Girl.